Retro.
Are you an aspiring Jedi, or do you dabble with the dark side of the Force?
Regardless of whether you fancy yourself a defender of the light or an aspiring Sith Lord, you're going to need a lightsaber.
Podcast Stardust is pleased to partner with Saber Masters, the creators of high-quality, durable, and affordable lightsabers.
Saber Masters is preparing to launch the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0, and right now you can get 2 for the price of 1.
So, check out the link in our show notes and go get your Ultimate Lightsabers from Saber Masters.
And don't forget to use our referral code Stardust to save $10 at checkout.
And each purchase using our referral code helps support Podcast Stardust.
Hi, this is Emily Swallow, the armorer in The Mandalorian. You're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. This is the way.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithling.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
Hey, we did it. We made it to another Friday. So let's wrap up this week and get on with our weekends by looking at some Star Wars news. But before we dive into the latest from the galaxy far, far away, Jay, I'm going to remind everybody where we can be found around the internet.
Absolutely, Dennis. My pleasure as always. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X conveniently at Podcast Stardust.
Okay, the dish is aligned, the signal is boosted to maximum output, shield is down. We are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, Jay, I wanted to ask you, you've been promoting the past few weeks your appearance at the Cleveland Gaming Classic. You were a guest there, a cosplay guest, and I got to see a bunch of your pictures on Instagram, Jay Snips Cosplay. Yeah, just wanted to get your take on that. How'd it go and what were the highlights?
Oh, yeah. So this was my second year in a row, special guesting at the Cleveland Gaming Classic, and it's always such a ton of fun. So it's at the Cleveland IX Center, which is this huge exposition center, and they often have things there like the Cleveland Auto Show and the Home and Garden Show and that kind of thing. And granted, they didn't use the entire exposition center, but it was a pretty good chunk of it. And so basically, it's a weekend of amazing fun where there's a lot of obviously gaming related types of panels and activities. Is free pinball to your heart's content. As a matter of fact, I played a Star Wars pinball game for about 45 minutes straight. And I don't think I was actually that good. I don't know. It was a very forgiving pinball game though, but
Nice.
they had some, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was even a little video game where you had to evade some asteroids in the asteroid field by holding down the left and right buttons for your flippers. So yeah, it was very unique. But it was Stern Pinball, which we've actually talked about on the show before. And so aside from that, they had a lot of different VR types of things. And then there was some guests from, for example, they had a Mortal Kombat reunion and among some other things. And then they had some really fun retro rooms. So they had an 80s room and a 90s room and a 2000s room. So it was decorated like different game rooms. So you could go in and have some photo ops and things there. So I was fortunate enough to be once again asked back as a special cosplay guest. So I had my own table and I had some merch. And I didn't do so well on the merch, but it was still a lot of fun. And I got a chance to be a judge for the cosplay competition. And so we actually had over 60 contestants in the cosplay competition. Yeah. So we had everything from, young kids and teens, and then we had novice, intermediate, and advanced cosplayers that all came out and shared their amazing handiwork with us. And so it was really a lot of fun. I got a chance to work with 3 different photographers actually that singled me out, and we did some little mini photo shoots and some different things. And so I was able to do a couple of collaborations on my J Snips cosplay as well. One with Commander Oppo for example, that just that one was a lot of fun. We did this
That
whole
was
thing in front
cool.
of the neon sign. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And you had the camera that went around. Was that,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yep.
saw that on, Instagram as well.
Yep. So there's this really cool 360 camera where you stood on a pedestal, and then the camera actually went around you,
Mhm.
and that was something that anybody could use actually. And so that was a big favorite for a lot of the attendees for sure. But we had a whole cosplay alley, and it was kind of like a little family reunion for me because I've been very fortunate enough to be able to meet a lot of cosplayers from not only in Ohio but around the United States as well. So there were some people there from Texas, as a matter of fact, and Michigan and Pennsylvania and New York, and so it was just great to be able to reconnect with some of those. And then I do volunteer with a local group around here called Rubber City Cosplay, which
I
is named
was gonna
after
ask about that,
Akron.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and of course, the Goodyear Tire Company. So that's where they get their name. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be volunteering again this coming Sunday at Greenie Sports Cards at the Medina County Fairgrounds for a trade show. And then I'll also be coming up here in October. Once again, I'll be appearing at Art on the Alley in New Philadelphia, Ohio as well. So, but again, yeah, the Cleveland Gaming Classic was heck of a lot of fun. And once again, like I said, I'm just so tickled that I get these opportunities, and I definitely treasure every single one of them. So yeah, so if anybody wants to check out the adventures, I've got tons of pictures. So I'll be posting those, as well as there's been some recap videos that a few of the videographers put together that you can find on YouTube. So if you just research Cleveland Gaming Classic 2024, chances are you'll catch me in action. So I was Ahsoka on Saturday, and then I was Weird Barbie on Sunday this time around. So I needed my hands free in case I sold some merch, because I knew my other characters, such as my Mando and both versions of Hera, as well as my fourth sister, they all wear gloves. So as it turned out, I didn't need to take the gloves on and off very often, but I'm hoping to do a little bit better here coming up at some of these other events that I'll be attending. So we'll see. It was my first outing with all this merch, and it was a good learning experience.
So I know it was primarily a gaming convention, but you did mention Commander Oppo was there.
Mhm.
Was there any other, great Star Wars cosplay going on?
Oh, yeah. So the Ohio garrison of the 501st was right across from me. And like I said, I've just made really good friends with a lot of people through a lot of these organizations. And of course, the 501st is Bad Guys Doing Good. And
Mhm.
so they raise money for Children's Miracle Network. And so they were out there doing a bunch of things with that. And Rebel Legion was there. And but yeah, there was some really great Star Wars cosplay, honestly, and it was nice to see. As a matter of fact, in the cosplay contest, there was a young man who did a mashup between Batman and a Mandalorian, and it was his Batmando,
Oh,
and
okay.
he ended up winning one of the places for the prizes. And one of the things that we do in the prejudging, which is technically the judging, is that we ask the contestants, tell us about how you built this, and what went into the process, and what the things that you did, and so on and so forth. And he was actually very humble about the process, but afterwards we got a chance to talk to his dad, and he said, yeah, he spent a whole year 3D printing all that stuff out and learning how to put it all together. And I said, I can very much appreciate that, because building a Mando is not as easy as people might think that it is.
Mhm.
And so this young man really knocked it out of the park, and it was super impressive.
I'm gonna have to look for a picture of that. That sounds really cool.
Mhm.
Who were some of the other winners in the cosplay contest?
So we had basically a lot of sort of oh, I guess you could say not niche kinds of things, but Fallout was a big one this year.
Oh,
So
I
we saw a
bet.
lot of that. Has Been Hotel. Are you familiar with that series
No,
on
no.
Amazon? So I actually wasn't either, but I have to watch it. There was a young man that did an entire Five Nights at Freddy's, one of the characters from that, and I'm not super familiar with that entire series, so I can't really speak to that super well. And then there was my judge's choice was the it was the Valhalla from Assassin's Creed. And so this character was kind of a very Viking looking character. And there was just so much attention to detail in that one that I couldn't pass that one up. And so, yeah, so there was just so much impressive work that was out there, and even the young people. So you had everything from Mario, and there was a lot of Legend of Zelda. There was even this really cute little one that was doing one of the Mortal Kombat characters, and Chun-Li. And
No,
so
okay.
I couldn't think of it. And that was just amazing. And so a lot of anime as well. Zootopia was another one. And yeah, so again, it was just a really impressive array. A lot of different fandoms were represented, which was a really cool thing to see.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Fallout being popular given that series that was just on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, of course, I know it was a video game first, but I hadn't played the game. But I did watch that first season of Assassin. Or of now I'm thinking of all the titles you mentioned, but of Fallout. Yeah, that
Mhm.
had plenty of cosplay opportunities written all over it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And there was some Baldur's Gate.
Oh, I'd
And
love to have seen that.
oh, yeah, yeah, there was some of that. And yeah, just some of your classic video games, like I said, Mario and, whatnot. So it was a really great experience to see all of the different fandoms because a lot of times, just going to Star Wars Celebration, of course, it's Star Wars all the time. And so it really opened my eyes and made me think about, oh my gosh, like I might want to check this out. And this is really cool. And that is really cool. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great, great. Well, like I said, the pictures that you had up on your Instagram page were fantastic. So I encourage everyone to go check those out because you really have a lot of great content from there. You could tell you were having a good time.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a blast. So hoping to be able to keep that tradition up again next year. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn to what we've got for Star Wars news for the week. And it's not a whole lot, but last week we were recording our news when this news dropped, but it was kind of a surprise. On September 19th, we got a surprise drop of a audiobook on Audible called Padawan's Pride. And it's been written by Brian Q. Miller, narrated by Kevin Kemp. It comes in at just under 4 hours long. And the description of it is this. It's set 3 years after The Phantom Menace. Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi and his Padawan Anakin Skywalker star in this thrilling galactic adventure set 3 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. When a Republic spy goes missing on the moons of Varl, the Jedi Council asks Obi-Wan and Anakin to infiltrate an underground pod racing circuit run by a crime boss believed to be holding the spy prisoner. With Anakin posing as a hotshot racer and Obi-Wan as his attendant, tensions between the two threaten to run even higher than usual. But when Obi-Wan is forced to leave Varl, Anakin is on his own as he faces a series of increasingly treacherous races that will determine his fate and that of the spy. Master and apprentice must use all their Jedi skills in this action-packed tale of cutthroat competition, deadly deception, and ultimately what it means to be a Padawan. And yeah, so that is out now. I have not had an opportunity to listen to it, but Jay, you and I were doing some planning here, and we're going to try and get to this sometime in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, it's less than 4 hours long, and exclusively on Audible. I was really surprised by this. I mean, I think everyone was because there was no rumors about it. But what do you think about this when you heard it?
Oh, no, I think it's fantastic. And this is content that we don't have.
Yes.
And I know we talked just very briefly about it last week on the news, and even the audiobook artwork for this shows Anakin in a very unique sort of state of his Padawan years. And
Hmm.
so I'm super excited about this. And it's just, this is pod racing. So it's perfect for Anakin to go into something like that, and it'll be really cool to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, tween Anakin.
Tween Anakin,
Yeah,
yeah.
or early teenager, one of the two. But regardless,
Mhm.
yeah, and this is something we've talked about not too long ago that there is this entire 10-year period between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones that's got almost no content in it. And
Exactly.
they keep filling up that time period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And then we've got the Clone Wars and all kinds of content between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But what little content there was between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones got wiped out when they set the old EU aside as legends.
Mhm.
And they've gone out of their way to give us stories about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan lately as a master and apprentice, but they just have not been coming up with anything for this era, which is really just kind of unusual, I think. So I welcome this. I'm glad. I'm eager to listen to it, and I hope it's successful, and will encourage them to give us more stories set in that time period. They don't have to all be about Anakin and Obi-Wan. I mean, we can get stories of Mace Windu, Yoda, pick a Jedi, Kit Fisto, Depa Billaba, set in there as well. If they're willing to give us a prequel story to the Phantom Menace, John Jackson Miller's story, then why not give us more here?
Right. Yeah. And because honestly, I would really love to hear more stories about Anakin in the Jedi Temple as well.
Mhm.
And, there was that Dooku audio drama that we got, and we had talked about the fact that it was very Hogwarts feeling, in his upbringing. And how fun would that be to explore some of the relationships between the younger Padawans at the time that Anakin was going through his training? I just think that would be absolutely delightful, quite honestly.
Now that I think about it, I was looking at my bookshelf to see if I can find this. There was an Obi-Wan and Anakin comic set between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, written by none other than Charles Soule.
Mm.
Um,
I feel like I might have read a couple of those, quite honestly. I think they're under my
yeah,
bed.
yeah. Well, they go to this remote planet that's kind of like experiencing a forever war, and they deal with that. That's something we're definitely going to have to get into on the show at some
Yes, I
point. That's a
agree.
I'm going to make a note about that. So, hey, thank you all for attending our planning meeting. Uh, Obi-Wan and Anakin. All right. Yeah, so I'm excited for this. And like I said, I know I think you've already downloaded it. I need to do
Mhm.
so, but I've got a bunch of Audible credits sitting there waiting for me to do something with them. So I'll try and get that knocked out, and we'll cover it here on an upcoming episode of the podcast.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'm also excited for this next bit of news, and that is the Bad Batch returns in a comic series coming from Dark Horse. This will be part of the hyperspace stories line that Dark Horse took over from IDW. The formal title is Star Wars Hyperspace Stories: The Bad Batch Ghost Agents. It's going to be a 5-part miniseries written by Michael Morikai, who has been working on Star Wars Adventures and hyperspace stories. It'll have art by Reese Hannigan and Michael Atea, and the first issue arrives on January 15th of 2025. The very brief description we have of this is they are on a mission to hunt down a mysterious separatist ghost agent who executed a daring heist on Coruscant. The thief's trail leads Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, and Tech to the seediest corners of the galaxy, a place where kingpins and thugs threaten the clones' mission and their lives. Dun, 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 dun. So, okay, so it's Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, and Tech. No mention of Echo, which leads me to believe that this is set before season 7 of the Clone Wars, and before Echo joined the team and they recovered him. This is fantastic. I'm really
Mhm.
excited for this. I would love to get more Tales of the Bad Batch. I'd love to learn more about what Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair and Echo are up to after the events of the Bad Batch at some point. But if this is how I'm going to get more new stories, then I'm all for it.
Oh, for sure. Yes, and you get Tech back
Yep.
too.
Yep.
Yay.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so sad when the Bad Batch ended, obviously, because we were thinking we were not going to get any more content. And we had kind of speculated that, yeah, maybe we would get a one shot here or there, or maybe there would be something else in the future. But this is fantastic. It really is. And we don't have to wait that long either. I mean, just a few short months.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is super, super awesome.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that we'll likely cover here on the podcast, I would say this is definitely going to be one of them, but we will more
Yeah.
likely wait until all 5 issues are out and then cover it all in one fell swoop. But this is great. I mean, it was well received. The Bad Batch was, especially from Clone Wars fans and fans of the prequels, and it told a great story. Rarely was there a miss of an episode as far as I was concerned.
Mhm.
It got stronger as it went. It had one heck of an amazing conclusion. And man, I really feel like they could have given us more of it. And we all would have ate that up. I
Mhm.
still don't believe that era of animation is over for Star Wars and Lucasfilm, but nothing's been
Oh, I
announced yet.
agree. Mhm.
We've seen some clues out there that they're hiring people to produce more animated content. We just don't know what that's about right now.
Right.
But hey, if this is what it takes, then I'll get it. I'll read it to support these stories and encourage them to make more of them.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, the more support that we can show as fans, I mean, we've seen it happen before. It brought the Clone Wars back even, and there's been a lot of things that, if our voices are made known, then squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing.
Indeed. All right. Well, that's what we've got for this week in Star Wars news. Last week was such a big week for news that this week just kind of pales a bit in comparison, but it was good to hear about your experience at the Cleveland Gaming Classic and just kind of touch on these exciting things that are coming up in Star Wars storytelling.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us for this week at Star Wars News on Podcast Stardust. We hope you had a good time. And if you did, then please subscribe to Podcast Stars if you haven't done so. It blows my mind how many people listen to podcasts but don't actually subscribe to the shows they listen to. But that is the case. You know how to do that. It's usually just a button on your podcatcher of choice. And, the other place you can find the show is over at retrozap.com, which is the home to our entire catalog of shows and a bunch of other great shows on the network, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Case Files, which have been getting into Agatha all along. The Animaniacast is still going strong there, covering a bunch of animation, especially having to do with Animaniacs. Doomcast is there, covering what's going on in the universe of Doom periodically. We've got Love, Death, and Robots Plus poised to make a return when we get a new season of Love, Death, and Robots. There's Superhero Suite, which I know is covering the Penguin series over on Max, and other shows doing a bunch of other great things. So make sure you check those out. And if you've got a moment, leave us a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, especially if that's Apple Podcasts. And we'd love it if you share the show on social media with your friends. Those are two great methods for helping others find the show. So with all that in mind, Jay, I want to remind everybody what our social media contacts are and what our other homes on the internet are as well.
Sure thing. So, first of all, just want to say hello there to anyone who happens to be new to Podcast Stardust. And we sure do appreciate you tuning in. And we also appreciate it when you do share the show with your friends. And so you could do that most easily on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Podcast Stardust. And if you're in the mood to check out some fun Stardust and Star Wars ideas, you can head over to our Pinterest page and you can find all kinds of stuff over there. And as Dennis was running down, we also have our two YouTube outlets. So we have our, traditional YouTube as well as YouTube Music. And you can head over to both of those, subscribe, and share those out. And those also support reviews and interactions as well. So you can hit those up. And if you're up for some real-time chatter, you can also check out our Discord room, which is part of the RetroZap Discord server. So as once again, as Dennis was mentioning, there's a lot going on at RetroZap. So if you're not in our room, you can always find something very geeky to talk about. So all of those rooms are supported over there on the RetroZap Discord server. And the link to that is in our show notes. And also in our show notes is the link to our TeePublic store. And you can choose from one of 7 different show logo designs that are available on everything from t-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, and everything in between. So hit that up. And one other referral we have is to Saber Masters. And you can go to sabermasters.com or once again, go to that link in our show notes where you can check out a wide variety of battle ready sabers. And right now there is a 2-for-1 deal going on the Ultimate Lightsaber 2.0. And if you do happen to pick up a lightsaber or 2 or 3, hit up the code Stardust at checkout, and that will earn you an extra $10 off. And once again, helps to support the show.
All right, Jay, we've been talking about your cosplay quite a bit in this episode, but I just want to remind everybody one last time where they can find what you got going on.
Absolutely. So once again, you can find me at j.snips cosplay. And again, I am going to be having a lot of appearances here in the fall coming up. So you can check out my Instagram page for all the updates on my appearances, as well as just the fact that I also lift up our other cosplayers too. So in my stories, I'm always posting a ton of things for Mando Monday, Tano Tuesday, Woman Crush Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fulcrum Friday, you name it. So check it out at j.snips cosplay.
Okay, upcoming on the show Monday, we're returning to our rewatch of the Clone Wars with a look at episode 7 from season 1, Duel of the Droids. And then on Wednesday, We're doing the second installment of a semi-regular feature we call Ask Me Anything Star Wars. So Jay and I'll be posing some Star Wars related questions to each other and answering those and discussing them. So make sure you check that out as well. So, all right. Thanks for listening to episode 787 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend. And until next time, may the Force be with you.